We take you back up to Capitol Hill now, where we are joined by Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman Jill Tokuda. Congresswoman, good morning to you.
Good morning. Aloha, John.
I wanted to start on the one big, beautiful bill. I know you've been closely watching the path
Absolutely.
of this legislation. When the House eventually gets back whatever the Senate does on this legislation, how different do you expect it to be from the bill that you voted on back in May?
Well, I voted against the big ugly bill, and let's just hope when it comes back to the House that this big dirty bill, as we know and we've been fighting against, hopefully gets a proper bath and a cleaning, and it looks very different from what we saw when we voted on it here in the House. Unfortunately, we know that Senate Republicans are doing their darndest to try to continue the dirty work of the Trump administration and literally trying to find ways to fund billionaire tax credits in the backs of everyday working Americans who need health care, who need food money, who need to be able to support their farms and small businesses. And that's just not happening in the bill that we see right now.
What can House Democrats do when this bill comes back to the House? What's the strategy here, especially as Republicans look to move this legislation as quickly as possible? They originally thought July 4th, but that may not happen.
Absolutely. We have to, first of all, demand a proper debate, demand that we have the time to be able to produce amendments, to be able to debate them, to fight for them. The American public deserves transparency and discussion. They did not vote for a mandate that would be rammed down their throat as a 4th of July present to Trump and his friends. Absolutely not. If you want to do something right, don't set arbitrary dates and times before you first know the full facts and you're committed to doing something right. And so I think Democrats here in the House are going to be demanding a full debate on this and the ability to be able to tease out every single change that was made by the Senate and ask the fundamental question, is this good for America?
How optimistic are you that you'll get that kind of debate in the House again?
You know, if anything we've seen this year, we know we're going to have a fight on our hands. But it's a fight we're willing to step up to, quite frankly. We have to. That was our mandate when people elected us, to demand that we come and do the work of Congress, which is not to rubber stamp what the Trump administration wants. It's to ask tough questions. It's to propose real changes that are going to benefit our constituencies. So it will be, no doubt, an uphill fight. We are in the minority, but that's no excuse. We need to do our jobs and demand better.
Congresswoman Jill Tokuda joining us for about the next 20 minutes here on the Washington Journal. Phone lines are open for you to call in. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, phone numbers are on the screen. And Congresswoman, I know you have to leave right before 9 o'clock to head to that all-members briefing when it comes to Iran. You're a member of the Armed Services Committee. What
Yes.
questions do you have entering this classified briefing? What do you want to hear?
You know, first of all, we should ask the basic question, what took you so long? I mean, it's been a week since the planes left Missouri, literally. And as members of Congress, we have yet to get clear answers. You probably have more answers than we do based upon the press briefings that you have had before Congress. This has been delayed, put off. We're told now intelligence would be limited going forward. We don't even have the DNI presenting, as far as I know, today. And while Tulsi and I have disagreed, she actually served in my seat previously in Congress. She is, in fact, the Director of National Intelligence. She is the one that the president and this country should be looking towards for answers. And the fact that they've publicly disagreed and now kicked her to a corner, this is unacceptable. And so there's a number of questions in terms of why did it take so long? What were the actual objectives that you're trying to achieve? How is it possible that this president can usurp war powers authority from Congress? And we should be asking our fellow members, how can you stand by and let this happen? And so there's a ton of questions. Let's just pray we get some real solid answers from this. And they should know this should not and must not be the first and only time they come to Congress to answer questions. And at some point, they should be answering those questions honestly and openly and fully in the court of public opinion.
When you say they, is it the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, that you're expecting, and who else?
This entire administration, Pete Hegseth will be here. I'm sure he'll be surrounded by his top brass there. But there is the questions often when we go into the room, who will not be there? And then the question is, why not?
I want to come to, you mentioned war powers, the potential war powers vote in the Senate today. Senator Tim Kaine expected to introduce that resolution this evening. What are you expecting in the Senate for that? Is that something that's going to eventually make it to the House?
You know, I would hope no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, you understand that the public deserves a full debate on this particular issues. To say that there was no overstepping on behalf of the president is truly not upholding your constitutional oath that you took as a member of Congress. And so, I would expect the ability for us to debate fully, to air all sides, to have proper votes where everyone's vote will be documented so your constituencies know what you think, where you stand on the issues of war power authorities, which impacts every single American, every service member in this country. And so I would hope that we will see a full debate, a vote that people can hold us accountable to, and pass it to the House, where we can then also have that full and informed discussion.
Some viewers may be asking why that debate needs to happen when it comes to Iran, when President Trump has announced the ceasefire and trying to move Iran back to the negotiating table. Why is it still needed now?
If you're asking that question, then you're questioning the entire separation of powers of the United States, the basis of our Constitution. 3 branches of government. We have a president who's operating as if he is a monarch of one right here, whether it's war powers authority, trade and tariff, the power of the purse and impoundment. Last I checked, the American people, democracy relies on that separation of powers, and we have severe encroachments stepping over the line by this president. That is why this absolute debate is necessary. And by the way, when we talk about true lasting, sustainable ceasefires, when we even talk about obliterated versus severely damaged versus you can come back in a few weeks or months and continue operations in Iran, there are still many questions, many things that, while the president may say it, does not make it necessarily so.
Congresswoman Jill Tokuda is our guest, Democrat from Hawaii, Armed Services Committee member. She has one of the longest commutes in Congress from Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District.
One of the most beautiful.
And here to take your phone calls as well. James